Thank you so much, NSA DC. I am just so excited to be here. Dr. Helen, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited about what I'm going to share today. I could talk about PR all day long, but we won't be here all day long. I will say that I got a call this morning from my friend, Dr. Willie Jolly. He was on the cover of Speakers Magazine January this year. He says, "Are you in DC?" I said, "Yeah, virtually." He said, "Oh, okay, okay." He thought I was actually in the building. I said, "No, no, no, it's virtual, it's virtual." He says, "Okay." He says, "I figured you wouldn't come to DC and not tell me." I said, "No, no, it's just virtual, it's virtual." So, but this is the next best thing to being there, right? So I really want to go over today just to kind of set the stage to be your guide in terms of how to get more PR, get more exposure. What I want to say though is that I have a magic wand, but I can't do magic, but I have been told that I can. So please don't ask me if you could be on Super Soul Sunday because I do not have that magic wand. But we could talk about how we can actually make that happen over time. Okay, so it doesn't happen, but it does happen over time. And I'll really explain a little bit about that. Let me see if I can move these slides here and move forward. Let's see. I always have a little bit of trouble about moving these slides on the Mac. Do I hit shift or do I hit what is this? Oh, okay. How about that arrow at the bottom? Duh, that's smart. So just a little bit about me, if you all aren't familiar. Thank you so much, Helen, for that bio that you read. One of the first things of any speaker, is you always have to have that bio. I call it that banging bio. And the bio really is to help people understand who you are, but what's in it for them. So if you remember, the last thing that Dr. Helen said is that she helps her clients get seen and paid like a superstar. It's like, okay, well, you know what? She did all this other stuff. That's good. But what's in it for me? So that was really how I instruct my clients to write bios, to write it so that people will know what's in it for them. It's good to have all the accolades that you've done this, you've done that, this award, whatever, whatever. But that doesn't really matter to people. They just want to know what's in it for me. So in essence, I'm a publicist. People know what a publicist does. Sometimes they call them the spin doctor, or sometimes they call them all the other names. But a publicist, I've been doing that for actually 30 years. So I need to update that bio, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm that old. So I'll keep it at 25. I'm also a publisher, like I said, of Speakers Magazine. This is going on 7 years old. And I'll tell a little bit of how that came about, and a podcaster. And I've been podcasting since, I don't know if anybody remember the days of Blog Talk Radio. Oh my God. That was my first podcast where we would get on the phone and actually talk. And that was like the podcast, and it would go out. So that was probably 2007, I think. And so I've been really podcasting ever since then. I've gone on and now I use other services as well. But really starting out doing the podcast. And I remember my first podcast that I did, I was so nervous. The gentleman's name was Rudy Rasmus. Uh, Rudy Rasmus was my client, and I started the podcast. It was called Chocolate Pages on Blog Talk Radio, and it was really to give a voice to my clients so they could talk about their books. Rudy Rasmus happens to be the pastor of Beyonce, right? So Beyonce is from Houston. He's a church in Houston, and he wrote this book about love. And Carolyn wants to come in, and so we wrote this. He wrote this book, and I said, "Well, we're going to get you on this podcast." 2007, and Rudy was nervous. All I had to do was give him a phone number. I had to give a phone number. We didn't know what we were doing, but it ended up being really good, and we ended up doing that podcast for about, I think we did like maybe 500 or so episodes or something like that. But from that little blog talk podcast that I did, and really just Chocolate Pages was the name of it, was just to really introduce people to books so good you can eat them. And I remember having Reverend Ron on there, Damon Wilson from Sanford and Son, the lady from Sparkle, not Irene Cara, but the other lady, Lynette McKee, from Yolanda Adams, from a Blog Talk Radio. And all I can say is podcasting was, for me, at that point, a great way to help my clients, but also in terms of networking. So how many people podcast? Let me see if in the chat, how many people have a podcast? I know you probably are on podcasts, but how many people have a podcast? You put in the chat so I can kind of see, or even like your thing. A video podcast or audio podcast. Okay, I'm not seeing. No one has a podcast? One new message. Okay. You do one with a friend. So Joe does on the cusp of launching in August. Okay, Elena. So that's good. One in overcomers, overcoming podcast. Video one is on hiatus. Will relaunch soon. Inside the Armor. Okay. So yeah. So Joe has one. So he has Chaz has one. I don't have one, but I thought about it and want to stay consistent with it. So yeah, I mean, it's almost addictive, Chaz. Once you start doing it, you will stay, especially if you're a speaker, you will stay consistent. Now, I tell you, one of the reasons why I started the podcast was that I wanted to give a voice, just like I did with speakers, give a voice to clients. But what I found, it was a great networking tool. So I did interview a lot of PR colleagues as well, or potential clients on the podcast. So sometimes you can't get on the phone with people, but they will accept an invitation to a podcast. And I found that to be the thing. This was a long time ago. What Reverend Ron, you know, celebrities, Kirk Franklin, Dr. Helen and I interviewed Kirk Franklin on the podcast. And at that time, podcasting was new. So it was, I probably couldn't get those type of people now on a podcast because it seems like everybody has a podcast. But the thing of it is a way to get out there, get known, which is the name of my current podcast. So I will give you a little bit of I'll go on to the next one here, just on the first slide. Okay, Pam, let's pace yourself. I will give you a formula that is in the PR world. People talk about it all the time. It's called PESO. It's not on the slide. PESO. So paid media, earned media, shared media, and owned media. So paid media, obviously, sometimes you have to pay to play. They call it advertising, or something like a Forbes Council is a pay to play. You have to be accepted by Forbes Council to write for Forbes or entrepreneur.com, or there's other places, Speakers Magazine, Brains Magazine. There's a lot of paid. The lines are blurred now in terms of what is really advertising and what is editorial. We used to call them advertorials. I worked for the Detroit Free Press when I first got out of college, and it was a no-no that the advertising department should not talk with the editorial. I mean, they were on different floors. Sometimes if you got on the elevator with the reporter and you were in the advertising department, you should probably get off. I mean, they really want to keep it separate. That was back then. That was 20 something years ago. But I'm telling you, today, the advertising and editorial match or meld, because you have to, because things have changed. So one of the main things about the paid advertising, and even Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, any of those type of things, those are paid advertising. Earned is what you would pitch to a reporter, and you earn their respect, their time, their attention, and they write a story. That's earned. That's when you see, if you're on Fox or NBC or CNN, they don't have a pay to play type of thing. New York Times doesn't. They are still in that whole journalistic integrity. Like, no, we don't have paid options. But I will say that during the time when I worked at PR agencies, I worked for clients like McDonald's or Ford, and larger clients like that. We did had an advertising budget, and you better believe that if we were pitching that client for editorial, their advertising department will say, hey, you need to really pay some attention to them because they're spending a lot of money. It's not really pay to play, but it's more or less like you have more of an affinity for your client when they're spending money. So that's kind of how it is. So when sometimes you'll see a lot of things about the same type of client, it's because they have an advertising that goes along with it. Even in Essence or a lot of magazines, if you're a big advertiser in that publication, you can get the attention of the editorial. So that's paid, earned, and then owned. Owned is when you own your own podcast. Owned is when you own your own YouTube. Owned is anything that you do own as your own blog. That can be a way of just really sharing information. So paid, earned, owned, and then shared. Shared is social media. Shared is when you go viral. Shared is that whole thing. So we always talk about that model, like what percentage of what is it, paid, earned, owned, or shared? And roughly you should have maybe 25% of each, right? That will be the perfect score if you could do that. So the importance of media attention for speakers, obviously one is visibility, credibility, and then really giving you that know, like, and trust factor. A person who has, say, Dr. Helen was seen on CNN versus I'm introducing someone else who's not known or seen on something, the credibility for someone saying that they've been seen on NPR or seen in USA Today or Nightline, automatically, because of the brand of the media outlet, you transfers to you. So for speakers, it's the way to really distinguish yourself beyond what someone else. So when you have the logos, I guess you would say, and you see, and I'll just give this as an example and how media has changed. Maybe I'll go to the next slide for this one. So when you see someone and maybe they have a little badge of themselves and it says ABC, NBC, CBS, and da da da, and you probably have seen, how many people have seen that? Where you see someone that says they've seen on their website and they said, oh, they've seen in, let me look in the chat here, and they've seen NBC, CBS, da 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 da, this and that. Nabelle wants to come in. I guess I can admit. Okay. I can admit. So when you see those logos for someone, that does give them a little bit of credibility if they were actually seen. So the type of media consumption today is that we can put out a press release. The press release will go out to, I don't know, 200 different sites. Some of these sites, like an NBC affiliate, ABC affiliate, CBS affiliate, could be a CBS affiliate in Nebraska, ABC affiliate in Alaska. And they have sites where they need content, and they pull the content from press releases from people like me, a publicist, and the press release goes on the site. The same press release will go on maybe 200 or 300, sometimes 400 different sites. They are an affiliate of NBC, ABC, or CBS, but the person was not seen on the television station. You understand what I'm saying? So when someone says, I was seen on ABC, CBS, or NBC, or Fox, you want to say, send me the link. Let me see you. If they send you a link and it's a press release, well, they weren't seen on, they were actually just published on an affiliate site of that. So I just want to make sure that people understand that traditional would be you're sitting on the couch or you're sitting in the studio of a television station versus digital, meaning that all of the TV stations have a website and they have to fill that with content. The content doesn't say that they were, and actually, if you look it up, you will see that it says this, they are not affiliate with da 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 da. Now they're on their site because it's news, but they weren't on that station. So this is a different type of really the media dynamics we're dealing in today. Being in this business for 3 decades, it is just tripping me out, just some of the things that I see. The media consumption has evolved. 90% of the people are getting their news from little things like this. We're getting it all online. And I started out, like I said, at the Detroit Free Press. Our Sunday paper was this thick. And now it's like this thin. It's amazing because we don't buy newspapers anymore. Even magazines, a lot of my favorite magazines aren't around anymore. They're just online. I used to always go and to airports and buy all the magazines. I love buying Black Enterprise at the airport, or I would buy different magazines. I still get Essence that comes in the mail, but they're quarterly. Even O Magazine. O Magazine was thick when we first started, and people were getting it every month, and I got it. I saved them. I save magazines. I'm a magazine fiend. And so I saved them. But now she does them quarterly. Consumers are like, you know what, I'm good. I just put it online. So that's what she does. And so our media consumption has evolved. So digital, just like self-published books back in the day, people were like, ooh, you self-publish. Now it's like self-publish is a thing. You could self-publish, very respectable. Media accepts self-published books. It's wrecked the publishing industry. The same thing with media. Media now, if you're online publication, Huffington Post kind of changed that whole thing, right? Because Huffington Post was basically a blog. Ariana Huffington was like, I'm going to just do news on Huffington Post. And it became a respectable thing. And now we get just about everything. New York Times, they have a paywall. You can read it that day for free. But if you want to read the New York Times, an old article, you probably have to have a paywall and subscribe to it. The same thing with the free press. You have a paywall, you have to subscribe on the app. So our media consumption has evolved. And just knowing that is good because we do have more opportunities to be in more places, but it also means our audiences are more fragmented and the attention spans are shorter and shorter all the time. So staying in, about what is the current trends, what are people watching, and more importantly, what are the people that you care about, that you want to influence, that should want to hire you? What are they reading? What are they respecting? What are the things that they would like to see you in? Where are you positioned? Something like Speakers Magazine, this is a couple of them here, being this right here is a print, but it's also digital. It's digital because we embed the videos, the speaker reels of the speakers, each speaker inside of the digital edition. Obviously, Speakers Magazine, you want to hear people speaking. So it's digital as well as physical. Why is it physical? Because these people have events. And so the magazine actually goes to events. Events, I'll get to in a little bit, but events are really still a thing, right? Live events. People do want to do that face-to-face networking. And I will just say this, just really overall, networking, I don't know whether it's a lost art because of social media, but public relations, the first word in it is public, obviously getting out to people, to the public. But the second part of it is probably the most key part of it. Media relations, public relations is relationships, networking. So anyone that any publicist that they are probably a connector. They are probably a person that networks with other people. They like people. Obviously, they have to have journalism skills, but the main thing is that they do like people. So with any media that I've gotten people in, whether it was CNBC or NPR or Fox News, BET, it has come from relationships. It doesn't really matter how great the story was. The story has to be good, but it is based on relationships. And that's really by far when you find out you're going to be on any station or written for any publication, other than if it's earned. I'm talking about earned, not paid or owned or shared, that it is definitely about relationships. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that that's number one, because a lot of times media people move around and say, for instance, years ago, oh yeah, I was in the Washington Post, whatever. Okay, you're in the Washington Post. Did you keep in touch with that reporter? Are you really making sure that you are following that reporter online? Are you sharing their stories, even though it may not be about you? I can't tell you how much common sense that would make, that if somebody covers you once, that they may cover you again if you stay on their radar. But what happens is we wham bam, thank you ma'am for the media, and we don't keep in touch with them. And they may move from a small local station to a larger market to a larger market. But if you keep in touch with them, they may have you come on their new outlet. Or if you keep in touch with them and you were really good when you were on their particular outlet, they will tell a friend. Media people, just like speakers hang around speakers, media people hang around media people. So many times my clients have been really shy when they went on the air, and the producer really liked them and says, hey, let me introduce you to another friend. And that's just networking one-on-one. It's not that they were like the best person, but they were person one that the media loves, someone who's easy to work with, who is prepared, who has great sound bites, and they share them along to other friends as well. So just staying, again, traditional versus digital. Digital obviously is so much more. We have a program called Quick Media Coverage where we guarantee people story placements in about 30 different outlets. It could be the New York Weekly or the CEO Weekly, Entertainment Post. We just had a client in there. And it's a really good place to start with that long form story, which is digital. And I've had so many times where a long form story, when I say long form, about 1,500 words or so, 1,000, 1,500 words, tells a story for the client. We then take that digital story with a pitch, a written pitch, short, brief pitch, to a television producer and say, hey, here's a story on grief recovery, da, 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 da. This is their story. This is their link. They'll open up the link, they'll read the story, and they can actually see a segment idea from that. So don't knock digital stories and just say, oh, I just want to get on TV. Television producers need long form stories in order to create that 7-minute segment. So crafting your message. So one of the main things is just like with anything, if you're trying to tell someone about who you are, you want to tell them what's special about you, right? What is your USP? What is your unique selling position? The same thing the media wants to know. The media loves that you will tie into something that's currently in the news. They like if you tie into any kind of celebrity factor. They love those kind of things. But also too, what is a compelling media pitch? And that's what I'll primarily talk about through this. What is a compelling media? What is news? What is a memorable sound bite? The thing that I find that most people, why they don't get press, is that they don't read press. Meaning that not knowing, so say for instance, you want to be in, I don't know, Forbes magazine or Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and you really, really want to be in there and you know that you should be in there. I would bet that if you study that publication for at least 6 months, know the cadence of how they're writing or what they write on, you could then pitch them. It's so much easier when you are familiar with them and you know what that reporter, and really follow within each publication, even follow a particular journalist or follow a byline of 2 or 3 different journalists in that publication. You could then pitch them. You could find them on LinkedIn, simple to do. Find them on LinkedIn, connect with them, start reading their material and see what it is that they're writing on, and eventually pitch them. Because what a compelling media pitch is what that journalist wants to write about, not what you really want to share. So you may want to, I got a new book. I want to share everybody about my book. Here's my book. Here's my book. And you just pitching and pitching. You got a whole list of media. You got a list you bought somewhere of about 100 different journalists, and you're just going to send them a press release about your book. And it will lay in file 13 because they do not care about that. It does take work to understand what it is that they want. You want to be an assistant to them, not a nuisance. So I'm going to say that, and then we'll go on to that. A soundbite should, and I just wrote about this on LinkedIn, no more than 15, 20, 30 seconds. And I know sometimes that's hard for speakers because they're used to speaking on a platform and they can go, right? It's hard sometimes when I'm trying to interview people on my podcast and they're speakers, and I ask one question and it's like, okay, it went on about about 20 minutes. It's like, that was just question number one. So a sound bite is that it's a bite of something. It's punchy. It's memorable. It is something, some of the things that I say, you want to go to events because you want to be the person that acts like the host, not the guest. Those that show up go up, because if you show up, you will go up. Those are the kind of things. It's almost like it rhymes, but it has enough punch to it that makes enough sense. It's enough to get the journalists to go back and forth with you in a conversation and not a one way. So again, building relationships, again, like I said, media relations, public relations, all of that is so important. When you want to use OPP, other people's platform, to broaden your reach, they have to trust you enough to share their platform with you. And just like if anything, if you are not a person that they feel they can trust with their audience, and you won't say anything crazy, or you won't try to push in your way through to sell something, they will allow you on. So networking with journalists and media professionals is really important. I did a podcast not too long ago, and really it just talked about 7 ways of how to build relationships with the media. And the number one way was to go where they are. To go where they are. And it's like, well, where are the journalists? Well, sometimes they're at events. They could be at, if you're in DC, they're at the National Press Club. Sometimes you can even make it so that you can find what's going on at the press club, and they have public events for them for you to go. But also journalists have conferences. Go to those. I always go to NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists. They have a convention every year. Journalists come, but regular people can come as well, and associate members can come. SPJ, Society of Professional Journalists, they have conferences every year. They just had one in Detroit the other day. They're awarding different journalists, and everybody has their own association, right? Just like you all have your own association and you give awards, they have their own. So go to where they are and network with them. And this is just not necessarily with media, but this is just networking. I interviewed Corey Portier, Corey Portier the other day, and he has met John Maxwell. He's Les Brown, Deepak Chopra, Canfield, just, and I was like, Corey, how did you meet all these people? This list was long. It was just like Robin Sherman. I said, how did you meet all these people? Now, some of these people you may not know, but because I'm in the field of knowing authors and speakers, he says, basically, I showed up where they were. He said they were speaking, and then usually at the end of their speech, they sign books in the back. And I would go to the back and I would buy their book. And while they're signing my book, I would ask them to be on, and Corey said this, to be on my podcast. I was like, well, he says, yeah. He says, all of them. And it was one person he wanted in particular, Dan Sullivan, to be on his podcast. And then Dan introduced him, I think, to someone else or whatever. But the thing of it is that it wasn't like he was fanning, right? He wasn't like, oh, I'm a super fan. I'm stalking these people. But he was trying to build relationships with the people. And these became his mentors. And Corey speaks, he says, over 200 times a year, right? And a lot of them are people who he has had on this podcast, who recognize who he is and see what he does. He's written books and that kind of thing, and they recommend him. So podcasts, again, we're going back to that first thing of starting a podcast, if I'm not inspiring you to do that, and make it a video podcast, to make it a YouTube podcast. So networking is really, really important. I told another client who was looking for a sponsor for his event, and the sponsor, you can send a sponsor your deck, and you can send them an email, and it'll go to the bottom of the pile because they don't know you. And you can say all the great things you want, but they're not going to probably know, they don't know you, they won't open it. And I said, the particular sponsor you're trying to reach is actually doing a book tour. She's doing a book tour. She's in Chicago. She's in Indianapolis. She's in DC. this and this. I said, and he's in Detroit. I said, if I were you and you want this sponsor, I would actually get a ticket and go to her event. And he's like, well, that's kind of risky. I said, I don't even know if I would meet her. I said, there's a section on where her tickets are which says VIP. VIP means that you get to spend time with her, probably have a drink with her, laugh with her, take pictures, whatever. I said, get the ticket. I didn't even know how much it was. He sends me back an email with the receipt of him getting the ticket to meet this particular sponsor who could sponsor his whole event because it's such a match made in heaven. It was $150. And all he has to do is get to Chicago. I'm like, dude, that's this problem. And so at this point, he says, well, what do I do? Do I give her deck? So the thing of it is you don't ambush people when you're trying to network them, right? Like, hey, here's, you don't try to marry them before you date them. So I said, you got to hear her story. She's on a book tour. Listen to her, initiate a relationship that will probably speak later, but don't try to ambush someone. So it's the same thing with journalists. When you meet a journalist, don't ambush them. Don't say, hey, I'd like you to cover my story. I'd like to come on your show. Give people a chance to get to know you, warm them up first. And I know you all know this, but what I'm finding is that so many people are not getting the media coverage they want because they're not doing what I call the common sense things of networking with journalists. And you can find out who people are by going on LinkedIn. You could put their name in Google. Probably a lot of them are on muckrack.com, and you can find out, and you can follow them on Twitter. They're on Twitter, but start a relationship. Now, I will say that trying to build a relationship with Tamron Hall, say for instance, is not the best way to get on her show. It is with her producers, and you can find out who their producers are through LinkedIn and build relationships with them, seeing what it is that they're looking for. And the main thing, so many people want to get on Tamron Hall, is that once you hear shows that are very similar to yours or shows that genuinely touch you, write them and let them know. Trust me, they very rarely get those type of letters or that feedback. Mostly they get is, get me on your show, get me on your show. Very rarely do they have, that was a really great show that you had the other day about A, B, and C. And just do that from often enough. You will rise to the top. So when you say, hey, I've been watching your show for a while, they'll know that you have because you sent some information to say, hey, that was a great show. You did some great shows on A, B, and C about motherhood. I have an idea for a segment. You will rise to the top because now they know that you have truly been watching them. You truly care about their audience. You know their audience. You know what is a good show. And now you have an idea. Why wouldn't they listen to you? Versus like just always blasting them with an idea. So anyway, so those are the things, some of the strategies as well. Social media, like I said, you can DM, but don't pester. Social media to connect with media professionals are very simple ways. If you see that they want an Emmy, congratulate them. If you see they have a birthday, say happy birthday. Do that first before you DM them and say, hey, I want to be on your show. So the other thing is really how to leverage PR. So once you do get the PR, the press, the coverage, how do you leverage it? It's the same thing if you got a TEDx talk, right? And you had a TEDx talk and you're on the stage and you're on the red dot. How do you leverage it? Because they, TEDx talks, they don't pay you. So how do you leverage it? The average person who has a TEDx talk usually gets from that at least 100 paid speaking gigs. But it's because they leverage it. Now, Corey, who I interviewed the other day, says he has done 6. Corey said that his average TEDx talk leverages about 300 paid speaking gigs each, right? And that, virtual or, in person, that kind of thing, because he leverages. How does he leverage it? So really understanding how to create buzz with the particular covers that you have. obviously we're going to take it, we're going to put it on Facebook and this and that, but there's so much more that you can do with it. And being creative with that, working with the publicist, really giving you that optimal for if you were seen in the New York Weekly. And I always tell people, I said, whatever news you have, at the very least, I'm going to give you this, put it at the bottom of your email signature. We probably send out, I don't know, 100 emails a day or reply back to them. At the bottom of your email signatures, like read my current story in, make it a hyperlink and people can click it. Oh, okay. There's been in Letitia Nicole, she's one of my speakers. She says, I put that story that ran on me in the Women's Journal all over the place. She says, and I put it at the bottom of my email signature. The same people that I thought would see it on social media were like, "Oh, I read this story about you. It's in your email." That whatever her email signature. And she says that no one ever read it before. They would like it, but they didn't read it. You see what I'm saying? It's just kind of like if it's social, it's kind of like you're sending it to everybody. But if you're replying back personally to people, it's like, oh, I read it. And I didn't know you did that, is what she said. I didn't know you did this. I didn't know you had that book. And she's like, people don't read. So making sure that you're putting it in your email signature is very, very critical. Obviously, you're gonna, if you have you're on Fox News or whatever, you're going to send out to your email list. You're going to put it in your social media. You would even, make it a QR code on the back of a flyer. I mean, you want to make it so that it's accessible to people so that they see it. You can write a column for a particular publication and then making sure you're using that link for that media outlet in that article. It gives it a backlink. So one of the main things is just really leveraging that, because I find people don't. And I will say this, posted more than once. So and I just told someone this too the other day, I can't remember. I think it was, anyway, I said, have you posted your press that you got? She says, yeah, I did. I said, when? She says, when I first got it. I said, that was several months ago. Do it again. It's like, you post it again. If the people who saw it, maybe they didn't read it, or there's new people that are coming in the pipeline, post it again. So make it a regular part of your content strategy to whatever media that you have, put it in rotation. Put it in rotation. It's, especially if it's relevant, just put it in rotation. So the other thing is why PR, a lot of people are wondering, why do I need PR? So think of PR as your lead generator, the way to expand your platform for other people to hear about you. But more so than that, because you could really do that with social media and Facebook ads, right? You could do that in a whole lot of different ways. But it gives you authority from the logos that I showed you early on. If you could say that you've been in someone else's and they have vetted you and it's a third party endorsement, it gives you so much more credibility. It allows you to be above the fray. Everybody can post on social media. Everybody can post on Facebook and Instagram or whatever. They can have their own blog and they can even own their own media. But when you're vetted by a journalist for a story, now it can be tricky too, because sometimes you may not like what the journalist writes. You don't have a right to really change their words unless it's wrong, factually wrong. But when it's vetted by a journalist, it is through their eyes how they're reporting on you, and that gives you the authority. So if you are written about in your local newspaper or your weekly newspaper, that gives you an authority. So I'll give you an example of Rodney, and I'll probably use Rodney a little bit throughout, because Rodney, where's Rodney at? Rodney was one of my favorite testimonial clients. He is really on the come up. He's now Washington correspondent. So Rodney, when I started working with him about 4 years ago, he had no media. He kind of had a website. He was doing social media. He had a raggedy YouTube. We changed it. But anyway, so I said, Rodney, we need you to be the big fish in the small pond in Baltimore. And I said, there's a newspaper there that's over 100 years old. It's called the Afro-American, I believe. I said, I would want you to pitch this particular publication about what you're doing in the community, about who you are, what you do. He's a leadership trainer, does emotional intelligence training, that kind of thing. Well, he wasn't at that time. He was just more or less like a leadership trainer. So he did. And I told him how to go about meeting this particular reporter. I know who the reporter was, but it because he lives in the city, I didn't. I live in Detroit. He lives in Baltimore. I said, I need you to make her your best friend. My best friend. I said, yes. I said, I know your capabilities. I know how friendly you are. I said, I need you to network with this particular journalist and let her be your best friend. So he followed her on Twitter and LinkedIn with her and all this kind of stuff. And then finally he kind of saw a little bit what she was about, what she was into, and he just sent her an email. I said, now we're ready to pitch her. You're not total stranger. I said, I need you to pitch her about a story on what you do and why you do it. And he really leadership training and his background and this and that, because I could see from this particular reporter that she had a heart. She's a business reporter. She had a heart for those that are really trying to make a difference in the community. I think she was in like uh job, not Job Corps, but what other corps? Not Dream Corps. But anyway, she was in some, a lot of nonprofit type of things. So she liked business, but she also wanted to have business with purpose. So anyway, so they talked on the phone. They got together for coffee. They talked some more, whatever. So she was interviewing the whole time and says, hey, it might make a good story. So she was interviewing him. And finally she says, you know what? I'm going to write a story. He says, oh, great. You're going to interview me? She says, no, I already have, over the conversation we were having. And she was doing her research. The story ran on the front page of the business section, a big picture of Rodney, and it said leadership expert, da 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 da, this and that. I mean, you couldn't get, he didn't say it about himself. She said it about him. The front of that got him a contract that is now very lucrative and with the government, right? He's doing this training, emotional training and things like that. But it was a credibility. So I told him, I said, the story came out, great. I love it. She did an excellent job, did a lot of research, homework. I said, take a copy of that and mail it to your ideal clients, to the people that you would want to work with. And he did. I think he mailed like maybe 20 of them. And then 2 of them landed like clients for him. And it has since boosted his credibility, his authority in the field that he said, because it was a crowded field. Everybody's a leadership expert, blah, blah, this and that. But he really had his story told. Again, it enhanced his personal brand, really speaking opportunities are coming often. So one of the things I also told Rodney, and I said, I said, we're going to get you a new photo shoot. So he did some new photo shoots. This is a great photo. Now, I'm not putting any shade because Rodney knows I've been working with him. I said, but this one, you kind of look like you're a singer. I said, you look like one of the 4 heartbeats. I said, so we're going to get you some pictures of you actually speaking. So he does. He has some better ones and things like that. So I said, okay, make those pivots. And so he went and I said, I see you because you're in Baltimore. I said, I want you to go to Baltimore News. And he went to Baltimore News and he has things that he could share. And so now he had a regular spot on Baltimore News. I introduced him to the guy, Donnie, and Donnie was like, hey, you could come on and you teach leadership training. So he does that. So eventually it came to the point where Baltimore News needed a Washington correspondent to go to the White House, press conferences and things like that. They sent Rodney because he was doing such a good job. So that was one thing. The other thing that he just told me the other day, there is like a TEDx talk here in Detroit. It's called Twisted Storytellers. It runs on, the podcast of it runs on NPR, but it's taped here in Detroit, and they usually have about 4 speakers, just like a TEDx talk, and they come out and they talk about different themes. I told Rodney, now Rodney is one of those people that when you work with them, they take advantage of all the opportunities that I present. And in one of my programs, Ready, Set, Go, Speak, he's a part of, he's always taking advantage of that. Now, even though this is in Detroit, he got selected for the June Twisted Storytellers. It's great production wise. It looks just like a TEDx. The podcast of it runs on NPR. So anyway, so he's doing that next month because it's about fatherhood, and he's got like 5 kids. So that's part of the thing. If you can't lead your own household, how can you lead anybody else? So again, PR just really differentiates you from the crowded market. Again, like I said, there's so many leadership speakers and that kind of thing. It just gives him a little bit of what is his USP and being told. And really it gives you a strong, positive public perception. People like to hire and work with people they know, like, and trust. They know, like, and trust. How can they know you if they've never heard of you? So PR gives you the way so you can get out there and get known. That's number one. So people know about these tools, right? 30 years ago was still did them, and it was still doing them. Never, they call them media releases, press releases, media kits, press kits, whatever. Interchangeable, it doesn't matter. These are the tools of the trade. You need to have a good one. They're just really key components of what a journalist needs. It's their love language. It's their love language. You could talk all day, and you could send them a book. You could send them all kinds of stuff. You can send them a white paper. You can send them a blog post, but their love language is this: a press release, because it's written in the form of who, what, when, where, and why. And a media kit. The media kit has all the research done for them. So all the links of everything, all the testimonials, your bio, links to your pictures, high resolution. It is so that it makes their job easier. They're not having to search all over the internet, trying to find this, trying to find that. What's the real name? All of those things, creating a professional media kit. Someone asked me the other day and they said, do I need it digital or do I need it physical? Since I am old school, I would say at least one physical copy so you can actually have it, just like I printed out this PowerPoint. You just never know if something is going to fail and you need to mail it to somebody, right? You need a physical copy. The very first time that I did a story on a big celebrity, so to speak, is celebrity in my world. I was in college and I was doing a story for the city editor of the Detroit News and Detroit Free Press. It was Susan Watson. And I came in there with my little tape recorder and I hit the thing and I was asking questions and she looked at me. She says, honey, I'm like about 20 years old. She says, honey, you better take some notes. She says, I'm gonna hand you a pen and a paper. Because you will be SOL if that recorder doesn't work or something goes wrong. So it taught me then. I was like shook and I was like, oh my God, but she says, no, she says, always go. So yeah. So should you have it written or digital? Both. Okay. Because you just never know, right? You may need to mail it. You may have it. I always say have press releases printed. If you're going to mail somebody a book, put the press release in the book. All right. Media kit, the same thing. Have it spiral bound. Have that there. Have QR codes in it. If you can't have hyperlinks, at least put QR codes in there. It's one of the things of the things. If you go to my website, pamperrypr.com, and you click up at the top, you click clients, I think it's clients, you'll see examples of press kits for the clients. And then also speakersmagazine.com. If you go to speakersmagazine.com, you'll see examples of press kits and media releases and speaker reels as well. Those are the things that are tools of the trade. If nothing else, you're going to always need the tools of the trade. The other part too is really leveraging social media. So obviously when I started, social media wasn't a thing, but now every publicist is not just doing media relations, we're doing social media. So, and I even see this in some different job descriptions. It's like they have to know how to edit, they have to know how to do artistic things, graphics. There's just so many things that wasn't necessary as a skill, even for journalists. Journalists today are MMJs, right? Multimedia journalists, where before they were like a journalist. And I've had friends that have been journalists for like over 30 years. And it was like, all I had to do was like do my story and take it back to the station. And they would do all their magic. She says, now I've got to do the story, edit the story, upload the story to a podcast, write a blog about it, and all these things because it's just different. And a lot of people, if you don't roll with it and rock with it, they will quit. The older people, they'll quit. And it's like, this is way too much. I didn't sign up for this. And the younger people will come in. It's like, yeah, I'll be an MMJ. MMJ is like, I'll do the stand up, I'll do the editing, I'll be the camera person, I'll do all the things, I'll do the blog, I'll upload it to the site. That is where we are right now. And it's moving at lightning speed. So you can find sometimes if you're emailing a journalist a lot of time, they don't have a lot of people in the studio, or they don't have a lot of people on the street, or they don't have a lot of writers because it's shrinking. It's shrinking. So they're very busy. They have a lot more to do. They're not paid a lot of money too, by the way. I want to let you all know that journalists, a lot of times they are, I won't say they're resentful, but they could be resentful because so many people are always coming at them about what they're doing and their big shiny object that they're selling. And an average journalist, if they're making 100,000, would be good, right? It's not a lot of money. They're doing it because they love it. And so when people come to them just trying to get quote unquote favors from them, it's irritating because they're like just doing their job. It the higher up you go in the food chain, you probably get paid more money and it's more glamorous. But at this level, sometimes the journalists aren't getting paid a lot of money. And so I always just try and tell people that's why it's good to really get to know who they are as a person. If you can offer them like tickets to something, or just remember them, like even if it's a movie premiere or a screening, those kind of things matter because they don't make a lot of money, and that's how you build relationships with them. But social media is really, really important. The whole part of it is not about just gaining numbers. It's about engagement. So even if you don't have a lot of numbers, I happen to have a lot of numbers. I can't really engage in a lot of it like I used to. I probably have like 25, 30 on my different Twitter channels, almost 30 on LinkedIn, 50 on Facebook, 50,000 on Facebook, Pinterest. There's no way I can engage in any of all that. I do have some people that are doing some things, but for the most part, people expect you, like, I sent you a DM. I'm sorry. I check my email more. I check my DM. But the whole thing, if you are going to be on social media, pick one, stay with one, and engage on that one. Because there's going to be a time where, when I say engage, network with that particular one. The person I was telling you about that was going to Chicago to meet the sponsor, she's on social media. She engages on social media, on LinkedIn. That's where her of choice. That's where she is. So you can get engaged with her. Now, is she on Facebook? She probably has a presence, but she doesn't engage there. So just knowing where your media outlet that you choose that you want to work with or follow, be where they are and engage with them there. If they're on Twitter and you see they haven't tweeted in a year, they're probably not there. Okay. So go wherever they are. The person that didn't want to use social media is Dr. Geneva Williams, one of my clients. She retired from head of the United Way here in Michigan, and she wanted to do something different. She wanted to be a leadership expert and want to teach about leadership. And so she said, but I don't want to get on social media. This is her. She's like, I don't want to get on social media, but I want people to hire me to speak. I said, well, you got to show them on social media. You got to do YouTube at least. I would say, if anything, do YouTube or do a podcast. So we started her podcast, and the podcast, she was interviewing leaders across the country. And maybe she did, I'd say, at least 60, no, she's probably up to 100 and something podcasts at this point. And people are listening to her. She interviewed Dennis Kimbrough and George Fraser and just different things, local people, politics, all kind of things. So eventually she got used to doing her podcast. Then she started doing video, and then she started doing TikTok. So now at this point, she has a lot of TikToks that have gone viral. She has got a Facebook group of her ideal clients called Women, Extraordinary Women Leaders, because she targets Gen X women. She uh reels, she does a lot of reels on. So at this point, she didn't want to do it because she didn't know how to do it. The more you do it, the better she got. And each one of those have led to other speaking engagements and more clients. And obviously, she's doing a blog and she puts it out there. So now she's head of the Women's Commission for the state of Michigan under the governor, Women's Business Commission or something like that. Women in business for the governor. So it only became over a period of time where her profile and her visibility was raised, and it was through social media. So a lot of times people say, I don't want to do TikTok, it's just so silly. Well, she's really doing just a straight message. She'll go in and tell people about leadership tips, and basically she's opening up her camera, has good lighting, and she's doing the thing. And I'm telling you, it works if you work it. Now, did it work immediately? No, but over time. So one of the things too about acing radio interviews, one being authentic, but two, especially TV. Again, we're talking about sound bites, people who know how to have a conversation with the host backwards and forwards. So one particular client, we did a long form story about grief. We emailed it to the producer with the pitch and just said, hey, around the holidays, people are typically, the holiday blues tend to be because people are missing their loved ones, especially around the holiday. And here's a story that really illustrates that point. A good segment would be A, B, and C. She can come into the Fox 2 and be a guest. So anyway, she went in to Fox 2 first time. She was rehearsed because basically the long form story told her what it is her sound bites needed to be. So the story was actually placed, by quick media coverage, which is what it did. And she went in and she did excellent. And she nailed it, her 7-minute segment, right? And they said, after the segment, they said, this is really, really great. Can you come in on a regular basis? So now, every single month since December, she's been on Fox 2 News with a segment. And basically, her segment is she has to create the segment, right? She can come in. So January, we talked about New Year's and, loss. February about love and loss, so it's always around grief and that sort of thing. Mother's Day, obviously it's around, missing your mom. What are the things that you could do? She'd come in with her 7-minute segment. She'd sit on the couch, talk to the people at Mary Lou or Lee Thomas about what it is that she does, because she was great with the segments in terms of how she looked, how she sound, and giving practical tips. Could she sell her book? Could she sell her products? No, they don't want her there to sell. They want her there to tell. But because she's leveraged the PR, she can sell when she shares it out, the segment from the YouTube channel or send out in her email. And then it lets people know who she is. So she's been busier than she's ever been because people have been booking her to speak and actually become a client. Handling tough questions, a lot of times to give yourself a breather, I guess you would say, before you answer the tough question is one, to repeat the question or to tell them that's a good question. It gives you enough time to kind of like figure out what they're really saying. Never spin or lie, obviously, when you're doing media interviews, but handling tough questions is always good to say, you know what, I really can't comment on that, and then spin it another way. If you really can't comment on something that's a tough question could be, what's been trending in the news recently, about Sean Combs and his whole situation that he's had with this abuse videotape that has been out. So maybe you are a therapist or expert in mental health, and they ask you a tough question regarding that. One, you can't obviously divulge any kind of things about your clients. Obviously, that's against things, but you can kind of give your opinion without really sounding judgmental. So handling a tough question about something that's very serious like that, as a mental health expert, you'd have to know how to couch it. the person that I saw do a really, really good job with this last night was Laura Coates on CNN, because she was an attorney and a lot of her cases dealt with domestic violence. She went on what I call a rant, but it wasn't judgmental, but it was from the standpoint of her cases that she handled over time. And you want to always try to bring it back to a center where it is very objective and not subjective. So when you're handling a tough question like that, always take it off of you. Don't get emotional with it. Uh, and just try to stay on message. You hear people say, well, what are your talking points? Stay on message. They can ask you a tough question, but try to spin it to what you're there for. I always tell people, I said, remember what you're there for. So write out your things and practice, practice. So the most important part, how am I doing good on time? Okay. The most important part of anything, of getting news coverage, is knowing what is newsworthy, right? What makes a story newsworthy? And the thing that most media likes are things that tie into something that's currently going on. They want, especially for television, something that's visual, because they're going to need some B-roll, background roll, right? They're going to need something. So what makes a newsworthy story, especially for television, is like you're pitching something and can you give them something visual? The other thing that makes it newsworthy is it that is timely, meaning like is it a good time? So timely could be May is Mental Health Month, right? Or May, it's Mother's Day, or there's health diseases that are certain things, Suicide Prevention Month, or those kind of things. Every single month, or there was Nurses Appreciation, Teachers, whatever, there's always, so you going to know what the calendars are talking about and pitching that. So obviously people know the beginning of the year, people are thinking about weight loss, right? So knowing what makes it newsworthy, meaning that in a cycle of things, they're looking for stories about. Father's Day is coming up. They're looking for stories about that. I think there was Craig Melvin, I believe, from Today Show. He's doing a book tour right now. Obviously, he's on Today Show, so he's a co-host of that. But he's doing a book tour, and his book has to do with fathers. So his book he toured all the month of May. I think they're starting into April through the month of May, and I think he ends like the beginning of June for Father's Day. So if he's going to make any noise about his book, it's got to be now. Father's Day is his Christmas, right? So I told somebody that the other day. I said, he was just at Busboy and Poets the other day. I said, did you go? You always say you want to get on TV. I said, just get to meet him. You may not get on TV right then, but at least meet him. Give him a card, give him a book or something. He was at Busboys and Poets. I mean, how convenient is that if you live in DMV? So anyway, so knowing what makes a story newsworthy is really important, because in knowing who to pitch what. So knowing that people have beats, whether it's a finance beat, nonprofit beat, family, education, medical, knowing the beat of a particular reporter. And that only comes from studying the publication, studying the segments, studying the outlet, so that you know what makes a news story, what their beats are. Because if you know their beats, you know that they have content that they have to produce around that beat. So you want to do that. I'm sorry. Yeah. So yes, if you have any questions, please just stop me in the interim. If you have questions, I was going to save them to the end, but if you do have questions, yeah.
We'll take a couple questions now. As I'm
Okay.
looking in the chat, I'm looking that Elena asked, what are your thoughts about contributing as a writer to a publication or media outlet, which I think you covered that.
I love
Currently,
that.
she's a contributing editor of an association with a limited and niche audience, and considering expanding this offer. How do you do that with traditional media?
So if you want to be when I say traditional, the best place to start is with your local newspaper, the weeklies, and They are always short staffed. If you could provide good content and you already are doing good content, and so they don't have to vet you as much, they know you write, you know, that is perfect because they're looking for content. So many times I always tell a lot of my clients, please write for your local paper in your area. Be the big fish in the small pond. Eventually you want to do maybe your daily, but that's a little bit tougher to crack. But I would say the weekly, if you could do that and write a column every single week, that will be a star on your cap. It shows consistency. Now, even though it's local because it's online, it'll be it'll be everywhere. And because it's a local news outlet, the domain for a news outlet is really high. The what they call the domain authority for a news outlet is higher than just say any other kind of outlet. So writing, I have a client that writes for the Tallahassee Democrat, I believe. And she writes once a month. And but I'm telling you, when that story comes out, it just pops right to page one on Google. And she lives in Tallahassee. She writes for the Tallahassee newspaper. And basically she pitched them what she wanted to write about. She wanted to write about hope. Um, and that was her thing. She gave them her story. Her book was called As Long as You Have Breath in Your Body, There's Always Hope. So she writes every single week about hope and giving a good inspirational story about how there was hope in situations or whatever. But I think if you have some writing clips, that's all you have to do is share and share about. The problem is that they want to know that you're going to be consistent. So share at least 6 or 7 story ideas that you would have so that they know you're not going to just be one and done. Because the worst thing they could do is say, hey, we have a columnist, and then you write one column and then there's no more columns. So they want to see what you've written. They want to see what you would write for them and give them some ideas so that they know that you are not just doing one and done. Because so many times people say, yeah, I want to write, and they write one, and then the editor is like trying to trace that person down for the next few stories, and they went MIA. So you don't want to do that.
Thank you. Chad Scott asked, how would you recommend networking with media contacts, media networking events, blind email, cold calls, etc.? And I think that's really critical in the environment we live in today. Do you reach out directly or do you use social media and things of that nature?
So depending on who it is, I would always say pick 10 people that you want to get to know and make that your 10 target list. No, I don't, not cold. But the more you know about someone, the easier it is to network with them and connect. So if it's only 10 or if it's 5, if it's those 5 and you really see there's a way for you to jump in and actually have a connection with them, do that. It could be the 5 that you pick, and out of the 5, you realize you all go to the same church, or you're part of the same fraternity, or you uh, went to the same school. Find some kind of connection, but that's only going to come from research. You can even see that, they may post it that they want an Emmy, congratulate them, or you may see that they're going to be speaking at an event and go to that event. It does take work to really, and most people, you can find out a lot of this stuff on social media. Years ago, when I started, it was so much harder. It was so much harder. That's why I was like, today is so easy. But you can actually find out those things. And one in particular, a producer from CNBC, I realized she was in a particular sorority. I wasn't in the sorority, but I knew her a friend who was in this sorority, who was the president of her sorority. And I asked her if she knew her. She said, of course I did. I said, she's a good friend of mine. And from there, we just struck a conversation. Now, did I pitch her right after she said that? No, I didn't. That's rude. So I just waited and just kind of just let her know that I see her, and anybody wants to be seen and recognized just for a person before they looked upon as somebody who's going to do something for me. So yeah, you take your 10 that you really want to, or your 5, and before you pitch or send something, find some kind of common ground or connection, or why you even think your story will be good for theirs. Because what? A lot of times people will say, I think my story will be good on CNN. I was like, why? Because I just want that platform. I want that OPP. I want it to be on other people's platform. I said, okay, but why? And so if you can't really explain like why, like what is it in it for that outlet's audience that you have seen that they have covered, then don't pitch it. Find something else. There's so many other media outlets, and you can even move up. You start, it may not be CNN, but maybe it's your local, Good Day Washington or something like that, or USA 9, whatever. But start with the lowest hanging fruit of where you know that you could probably get in. And from there, it will build. But a lot of times people just think that, oh, and reporters know too when they're just being spammed. They know when something is not really personalized. They could just tell. And you just need to take the time to personalize it before you network. Yeah, sometimes you could go into the DMs or things like that, but connect with them first. Connect with them, look at their Facebook, their LinkedIn. Muck Rack will tell you where they are on Twitter if they are. But wherever you see that they are hanging out, and if they're not hanging out anywhere, push come to shove, send them an email then and say, hey, are you on social media? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a podcast? And if you did have a podcast, ask them to be on your podcast. Find some kind of way where it can be part of your podcast. Like I said, the first thing I said is a podcast is a great networking tool. And you could do that for the people who potentially you want to hire you to speak or for media that you would like to cover.
So Elena asked the question, I'm going to combine it with another one that's here. What are your thoughts regarding pitching the launch of your podcast, book, or whatever to media contacts if there is a hook?
Yeah, if there's a hook, it's say you're, I don't know, launching a podcast about fatherhood and you're a father or, families, or if there's a hook, but just know that they don't care about your podcast and don't care about your book. They do not care about your podcast or if it's new. They do not care. It's like, what is it? What's in it for them? What's in it for their audience? What is it? Why is it timely? Why is it relevant? What makes it newsworthy? And that's what they're looking for. What is the story behind it? Remember, they're storytellers. They're doing this not for a lot of money. They're doing it because they're storytellers. They're looking for news. They have a nose for news. And knowing what is news depends on the outlet. And so studying that outlet, knowing what they consider news, that's what you pitch. So if someone says, hey, I have a new book, they could yawn because they get new books all the time. It's a million new books a year. So what is it? Why is this book relevant and timely for this outlet at this time? Why should they care? And so before you send anything, the subject line in the email is like why you should care. Like why would they open it? What's in it for them? And I know it takes, I'm kind of saying the same thing, but I find that so many people think because they have something that's new that they just launched or released that they would care. And and that's why it helps really building a platform before you write a book or that kind of thing. It's just to get buy-in from just your tribe so that it looks like it's newsworthy. And have other people talking about your podcast or other people talking about your book, not you just talking about your book and you want them to cover it. So.
Okay. You talked about social media and choosing that one or two social media outlets that you like. How frequently should you post their original post for you versus responding to other posts that you see?
So engagement is if you're on one outlet, if you post something and people are commenting, you should comment right away, like within a day, because that's, it's like somebody talking to you and then you just ignore them. Like somebody send you a text and it's like, you just ignore my text. So picking one and responding to it and you don't have to if it's in the middle of the night and that kind of thing. But for the most part, you'll get a notification on your phone that there's a comment on your post and you comment back. It's kind of like in long old days when we used to blog and people would leave a comment on your blog and we would respond back. So you want to do that. But I would say, how often should you post? I mean, the least is once a week. But some people post, they have little nuggets that they could say 2 or 3 times. a week. Some people 2 or 3 times a day. So it just depends on your area. Something like YouTube, which is a social media, but also a great resource for speakers to use at least once a week. Release a video once a week. Doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 10, 15 minutes, but at least once a week. Because the more you serve up YouTube um, videos, the more it will recommend your videos to a larger audience over and over again. So sometimes on Facebook, it won't do that. It will not put your content in front of other people, but YouTube will. So you want to make sure that you use YouTube.
Frank D. Bartolomeo asked the question, what references can you give us for media attention, books, websites, etc.?
PamPerryPR.com.
Okay, there you go, Frank.
I've
Pam,
been blogging. I've been blogging for like 10 years. It's everything on there. It's a podcast. It's a blog. It's links. You will just have a field day. You could just binge the rest of the weekend on all the podcasts.
Okay. Did you say PamPerry.com?
PamPerryPR.com.
Yep.
PR.com. Got it. Thank you so much, Pam.
Yep. It's in my space. PamPerryPR.com. And that's another little thing. You see on my Zoom thing, Frank, my name.
You see where she's sharing her screen, PamPerryPR.com.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. And I suggest people do that. Yeah, Joe said that. I suggest people do that if they can. Your name.com. I mean, obviously it's your name, but put your URL where your Zoom name is. That's one of the things.
Great.
That is so smart. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What I want to do right now is I want to find out, are there any new members with us today or guests? New members or first-time guests on the line online with us today. New members, please take a moment, introduce yourself to other members who maybe do not know you yet, and so that we can get to know you a little better. Any new members?
Any guess?
Any guests with us today?
I'm trying to see if I
Oh,
recognize.
Janet Fish. Janet Fish, tell us. Come on camera if you're available, or just let us know who you are. Are you a member?
I am. I'm a new member.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you here?
Well, I'm very interested in seeing how PR has changed over the years. It's very interesting to hear from a professional like Pam. I've written books in the past. I've sort of taken a couple of years break, about 10. I'm getting back into it slowly. So I'm trying to catch up with what's happened in the past 10 years post COVID and how that sort of changed the world.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. We love new members that become long-term members once you get hooked on the content that you get here and the richness and how it supports your speaking business. Any guests with us today? Please come and introduce yourself to us.
Hey, Dr. Holden, I'm not a guest. I'm a new member. I've actually been part of NSA for a couple of months. This is my first time at an actual event, though. So my name is Chad Scott. How you doing, Pam? I've been following you on Instagram for quite some time, so this is ironic. I love the content and the work that you do. So I'm a speaker and author. I mostly focus on mindset and resilience and well-being. Recently just published my first book, Success Starts Within, Achieve Your Potential Through Radical Self-Care. So I'm just trying to understand sort of and network with other speakers and see how I can help others as well. But I really enjoy listening to the talk here, Pam. Really appreciate all the work that you do.
Good, good.
Oh, go ahead, Pam.
I was just saying, one of the things that when I'm working with a client and they tell me their area, because you sound real specific, so that's good. And it's like, okay, you've got a niche, you know what it is. You said resilience, I remember that, and self-care. So one of the things I will tell clients is like, name the top 10 books in the area that you talked about, and then go to those authors' websites and see how they are marketing. So say, for instance, if it's resilience and self-care. Resilience, I think of David Goggins. I don't know if you know David Goggins. So I would look in what I call like a backwards kind of a thing, like look at David Goggins and say, okay, he's resilient. Okay, David, it's like it's epitome of resilience, right? All the stuff he's gone through. And I would say, well, where is he? Where has he been? What podcast has he been on? Does he market? Is he on Instagram? I'll just look at their marketing footprint or their PR footprint and see what they've done, because I call them who are your big influencers in the field. And you can find that out by Amazon by putting in the keywords. And then from there, look at their websites, how they are doing things. If they're like the top 10 in that category, then say that's where I want to be in 5 years or a year or whatever, but work backwards from there. And so many times you'll find Dr. Sherwood, she was on the cover of Speakers Magazine years ago. So Dr. Sherwood is always my forever November because she does SpeakerCon in November. And one of the things that she has done well is that she's has a digital footprint. If you look at where Cheryl started, it's all in her media kit. So media kits are great things to have, even if you don't really want to use it yourself, but you can always get media kits of your influencers and look at where the places where they've been over the years. Typically they'll keep them, they've been on the last 3 or 4 years. Think about it. If they've been on, I don't know, they put 20 links in there of places where they've been. Think about it. If they're influencing your field, the people who interviewed them, if they have the same books similar to yours, and that was years ago, they would like yours as well, because you could tell wherever they've been, you can trail up behind them, because now they're on to bigger things, but they started here. So you start where they start. You get what I'm saying? You start where they start and then move up and move up like they do. So Cheryl started, I don't know, at the very beginning, right? She was on all these different podcasts. So find those podcasts that she was on. You know, she was on all these different blogs, and you get on those blogs. She was in these different magazines. I think she was on the cover of one in DC. I want to say Prince George's County magazine. She was on the cover there. And then she advertised. So before she was on the cover, she advertised a full page in there every single month, about like 4 or 5 months. And then eventually they said, hey, you make a great cover. I guess so. So anyway, so those are some of the things that I would suggest, knowing who your influencers are. I don't call them competitor, but who are the bigger influencers, and what does their content look like on their social? Do they have an email list? What is their offer in their email list? You can look and maybe that's just me, but I know I can look at an influencer and see how they're marketing and promoting. And I can even see where they're going just because I've been in this so long. But at a certain point in time, you can even know who they're connected to on Twitter and those kind of things, what stations they've been on, who are the people that they have connected with, that you probably think that that's probably how they got here, you know, because I can see all of that. So it's not just, it's a person I was looking at the other day. I think her name was Dr. Anita Phillips. And she was on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. I'd never heard of her. And I just was like, oh my God, how did she get there? So when I start looking at it, I realized that she was a minister and that she also was working with TD Jakes. I said, that's it. So TD Jakes and Oprah, obviously they know each other. So, you know, it's like people just don't pop out of nowhere and they're on something. But you try to, at least I do, I try to figure out like why they are there. I had someone in O Magazine, Bonnie St. John. Bonnie St. John ended up at O Magazine because they were looking for people with disabilities to spotlight. Bonnie has one leg and she wears a prosthesis, but doesn't wear the kind that looks like a leg. It's like the silver. So anyway, so she did a whole photo shoot with that and just talked about how she just really, you know, she's a skier and all that kind of stuff, but she says she's not ashamed of that. But we only knew about that because we knew that they were looking for people for a story for that. And we pitched
Chad, I hope your name is on the wheel, which it should be because you pre-registered. Anyone, if you just registered this morning or late last night, make sure you put your name in the chat box so that we can make sure you are on the wheel to win that opportunity to go one-on-one with Dr. Pam. At this time, I want to, Joe and Kim Moore. Joe, you have a question real quick? We're going to take a break. We'll be back and Dr. Pam will be back with us. Can it hold?
It can. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. What I want to do at this point in time is I want to bring our President-elect up and Morgan to talk and Murdoch to talk about voting and oh, you have to buy a ticket for the wheel. Oh, it's closed now. Apologies. It's closed now. So that's all right. You have Dr. Pam's information. Reach out to her if you missed it earlier. And Robert Murphy, can your question wait till we come back after break? Perfect. I got you. It was Joe Morgan and Robert Murphy. Your questions will come up right after we come from break. But right now, I want to turn things over to our president-elect, Ann Murdoch, who's going to share some information with us that's important for us to know because it's time for members to vote to elect our next board of directors. Ann, take it away.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate all the people that have stepped up. It is election season, but with NSADC, unlike other times, we don't get bombarded with fundraising ads and a lot of bitter campaigning. We're all very collegial. So I posted the slate in the chat. Voting is open. You should have gotten an email. If you have not got an email, reach out to us, and we will make sure you get the link to vote. It's an online poll. So just to introduce some of the people, obviously. I'm running for president as the current president-elect. Really grateful for Rob Clark Jr. stepping up not only to serve on the board, but also to volunteer to be president-elect. Don't really have too much choice for the immediate past president. There's only one person that's qualified for that position. Great Carol Ann Lloyd has done so much for the chapter this past year. We're really lucky and fortunate to have Elena Yearly come back as the treasurer. She's just been such a steady hand at the helm of such an important position as a chapter. We are really, really fortunate to have somebody with her background, quality, and dedication handling that sensitive position. Welcome back, Tonda Bean, as serving as secretary, a position that often doesn't get enough credit that it deserves, but it's important too to make sure that we're operating smoothly and keeping all the records straight and everything like that. Frank DiBertolomo, welcome to the board. Appreciate your stepping up. I know he's going to bring a lot of experience and insight to the position. Gina Dolan, same. Welcome. Thank you for stepping up. Barry Piat's coming back. So really glad to have him. And Salima Valini, of course, is staying on with us too on the board. So really grateful to have those people. Really want to acknowledge Dr. Irvin Nugent for his position as immediate past president. He will be stepping down, but we relied on him heavily all the way through, including this morning. So really grateful for his participation. Dr. Candy Campbell is also stepping down. She's done yeoman's work. And Joy Rains is stepping down after her service. So appreciate all those who have served. Appreciate those who are continuing to serve. Please click that link, vote if you haven't done it already. Voting closes May 28th. So thank you so much.
Good people, it is 10:39. We'll count it as 10:40. We will resume in 15 minutes at 10:55. You need to refresh your coffee, do whatever you need to do. Please, you don't want to miss the rest of this show, this presentation with Dr. Pam. In the chat is the chapter survey. Please take a moment and complete the survey so that we'll know who's here, how we can continue to bring great programming to you, the membership of NSADC. See you in 15 minutes. Well, hi there, Rob. How are you?
I am great. Thank you
Good.
for your tremendous emceeing and leading this morning.
Thank you so very much.
I was just going to type into the chat. You were asking about avocado or bacon.
Yes.
I actually blend my avocado into my vanilla chai protein, a plant-based protein shake with blueberries. So
Oh, yum.
that's how I get my avocado every day.
I love it. I love avocado. So I do it any kind of way I can get. I don't do it every day though, but I like the idea of putting it in a smoothie. I'm getting ready to get back to smoothies. Hi, Nicole. You have a question?
No, I was just late into introducing myself. I had, I guess, joined years ago. So now I'm trying to come back and
Well, wonderful. We'll have
renew.
you share that when we resume at the end of the break
Okay.
in about 9 minutes. No, five,
Okay.
4 minutes. 4 minutes.
Sounds great.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Nicole, I think I reached out to you on LinkedIn. I see you're also in the cybersecurity space.
Yes.
We got to talk. I
Okay.
sent you an invite on LinkedIn.
Okay. I'll get my other computer for that. Okay.
Well, you don't have to do that now, but just
This
Got a
computer
LinkedIn
doesn't have
number.
LinkedIn. I don't have LinkedIn on this computer, but this computer is clearer for using video and
gotcha.
Zoom is updated on this one. So,
Chaz, are you online? Or are you away at break? Okay. I'll reach out to you later, Chaz. Hi, Robert. How are you? Uh-oh, can't hear you.
Oh my gosh,
Did you
that's a
make
great.
that? Did you make that sign, or did
I
you?
did it. I made it.
Oh, that's
You
hysterical.
can't find it anywhere. I made one.
You should sell those on Etsy or something. You have a good side business going on. That's hysterical.
With what time? I'm busy promoting and doing what I do. My book comes out in September. I'm like, oh, what a great time for PR.
Multiple streams of income, Dr. Helen.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I'm going to put that on the list. Let's make some signs that say you're on mute.
So, Dr. Helen, now that you went down that road, you got to now tell us what your book is.
My book is on intentional leadership, how to drive leaders, visions, and teams forward. And I was reaching out to Chaz because the anchors of intentional leadership are strengths, awareness, resilience, and well-being. 7 years in the making.
That's awesome.
I'm just glad it's done. I didn't anticipate all the work that goes into it after the book is written. So what a journey I'm on.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I can kind of return to life. So be on the lookout. That's why my podcast is on hiatus. I did it every week for a little over 2 years. So if you're ever interested, it was Dr. Helen Speaks, Strength, Resilience, and Leadership. And you can find most of those episodes on my YouTube channel. And they're like 30 minutes a clip. So you can get from it whatever meets your fancy. And so it's under revision to launch to support intentional leadership. So I'll be calling on some of you all to be guests on the show.
I think that's awesome. I think intentional leadership is something we probably need a lot more of.
I would agree. And when I was doing it, I didn't know. And it's like, what is it? The timing of things? It's like, wow, look at here. This is exactly what my book is about, resilience and well-being and how to not just lead, but lead with intention. Okay, here we go. We're going to resume the show with our host, with our presenter today, Dr. Pam Perry, who has just been phenomenal. I can't wait to hear the rest. And I was so busy getting the book out underway, I forgot to get my own ticket for the for the wheel. But nonetheless, I'll have to follow up with Dr. Pam and see what we can do to work something out as I take the next leg down that step. Who thought about PR when I was just trying to get the book done? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, everyone. We are coming back. I hope you had a chance to refresh yourself before we get on to part two. And I just want to tell you, for those who did purchase a raffle ticket, what it is. So you will receive a 1 hour consultation with Dr. Pam. And you've got questions, and Dr. Pam has answers, so many that she's given today. But as some of you have asked the question particular to you, here's your opportunity to really go deeper, to take that deep dive, to move your PR to the next level. And to bring your most pressing questions. Don't waste it on peripheral things that you've asked or heard addressed here. You want to go to those that are going to particularly pertain to you. Dr. Pam's goal is to get you unstuck and moving forward with resources, contacts, and a strategic plan. During your private conversation with Dr. Pam, she'll go over anything you want to discuss, anything. And I'm giving you some pointers. Don't go with the stuff that you can get anywhere. You want to go with the stuff that's chunky, that's really going to take you deep and set you apart from the others. A strategic plan, something that you just want to know, and she'll give you through conversation and a prescription of next steps. You go to the doctor, oh, my elbow's a little rusty. Here, do this and it's going to make it better. Dr. Pam's going to show you how to take what you've got that's got you stuck from moving forward and begin the process of getting unstuck to move in the direction that you want to go with easy, very clear how-to steps to get there. The 1 hour session will be recorded, so you don't have to worry about taking copious notes during the conversation, and you'll receive the recorded audio, MP3, or Zoom video within 24 hours after your session. The opportunity is a $2,500 value to you. Make the most of it. Returning to you, Dr. Pam, we're just excited for part two of where we're going. And thank you once again for being such a gracious and generous presenter for our members today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the applause. So let's talk about once you have.
Oh, wait, hold up. We're going to do the drawing now.
Okay.
My apologies. Okay. We're going to do the drawing now. And are you ready, Jess? Okay, let's see who our winner is. Anne Marie Brooks. Anne, are you in the house? You are the winner for a 1 hour consultation with Dr. Pam Perry. If you're not in the room,
I'm in the house. I'm in the house. Thank you. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great, great win. Thank you.
Wonderful. And before we get going, there is one more. I'm gonna call her a new member, but she's actually a not so new returning member. And we want to recognize Nicole King Campbell. Nicole, if you want to just reintroduce yourself to the chapter for the many new members we have with us today.
Hi, good morning. I'm Nicole King Campbell. Yes, I can't remember, like a long time ago. I did a membership, but I also just did the Cheryl speak. Yeah, I did her storytelling contest.
Oh yeah.
So I did not place, but it was a very I did get to be in the people who were selected to tell the story, so that was very exciting in itself. I have done stuff in the fundraising space. I've done John Maxwell training, and I've returned to Toastmasters this year. So I just did the Women in Cloud World's Guinness Book Record challenge for their dream board. So we have a Guinness Book of World Records for doing a virtual dream board. So what you said resonated with me, Dr. Pam, about I went to Seattle a couple years ago and met the head of Women in Cloud by accident. But you know what you talked about, being in the room and meeting people. But I'm helping my husband. He does a free space camp. We live in Virginia, but he does a free space camp in New Mexico, and it's the Colonel Alvin Drew Space Camp. So we've been trying to figure out how to work the PR on it since we live here and almost all our volunteers are retired active duty, and it's really not space. So I'm trying to help do that. So I found this very, very interesting, and um, I do actually have to leave this a little bit early today because I'm going to the Serving Our Willing Warriors in Bull Run, Virginia. They have an open house today, and I served with the president from that. So I'm very interested. I thought about something else you said just now that just popped in my mind, but I'm very interested in community service, and I do some fundraising. I have um, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do with my next phase of my life. So that's why I'm just slowly coming out of my getting two kids off to college shell.
Well,
So
see, Nicole, we have a role for you. It's
oh
called
boy.
volunteer that next year will say, yes, I think I'd like to volunteer to be an at-large member of the board.
Yes,
Well,
that will have to be next year because
Yeah.
we're right this week we're fighting the cutting out of the Virginia budget for the veterans. So right now I'm a little bit, and I'm a TTA advisor for Top Ladies of Distinction. So
Nicole,
I have
I
to
get
pull
it.
back for some
Next
of my
year,
community service, and I
next
might be able
year.
to help next year.
You hear that, Anne? Next year. Pam, we're turning it over back to you. Thank you.
Good, good. Nice meeting you, Nicole.
Thanks. Nice meeting you.
Yes, yes, yes. So let's go to the next slide here. We're going to talk about maximizing media appearances. So once we have them, what do we do with them, right? Like, so I got them. So one of the first things, and everybody knows, you put this in the chat. What's the first thing that you do once you have an interview? What's the first thing that you do after you do the interview? Put in the chat. Let's see. There you go. You're right, right. Send a thank you. Oh my God, Dr. Helen. Yes, that is so. Do you realize my media friends say they hardly ever get any thank you notes? Like they don't even get it as an email. We're not even talking about like mailing it with a stamp. We're talking about like just a follow-up strategy to continue the relationship. Like, I mean, obviously you say thank you for having me when you first come on. Thank you for having me, da, 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 this and that. But like a thank you note that says thank you so much and why you thank you, what it was great or whatever. So that's like one of the ones to cement the deal with the media because they are people too, even though it is their job, they want to feel appreciated. So if you can, whatever you promise to send them, send it to them in the mail. I'll send you a book. I'll send you a copy of a book for your son, or I'll get you an extra copy for your aunt, whatever it is. Do it. Send them a Starbucks card, whatever. It's like, that makes so much a difference that they will remember you when they're in a pinch. And I'll give you an example of Rodney. Again, Rodney C. Burris. He was one of the ones, right? So he's in Baltimore, and there's a show called Be More Lifestyle, and he was just on there about a couple of weeks ago. And he had went to an event that I asked him to go to. I said, show up and you go up. So he went to an event for Dr. Marcia, who was also in Baltimore. So they didn't know each other, but I said, go to her event. You guys are kind of like part of the same family, right? Because you're both like cover secret. He was in 2020. She was the month of April. So he went to her event and he met the person, I think is Mark Clark, I believe his name was. And he was one of the speakers. Yeah. So she met Mark Clark, and just friendly towards Mark or whatever, and gave him his number and told him a little bit about himself and just say, hey, any way I can help serve you, just let me know. Well, that was that Saturday. That that Monday, he got a call and said, hey, my guest for my show is reneged or couldn't make it. He says, would you like to be on the show? So he met him on Saturday. On Monday, he called him. On Tuesday, he was sitting on Be More Live. Okay. And that's just from being nice to the guy who has a TV show. So that was and how he leveraged it. Obviously put it on Facebook. He's going to send it out to his email list. He sends it out to his current clients to kind of make them feel good that the person they hired is really in the news. He put it at the bottom of his email, which he always does. He's in groups in LinkedIn that he may not necessarily be connected to. So he's not connected to everybody in the TEDx group on LinkedIn, but he put it in the TEDx group on LinkedIn. You see what I'm saying? So when you're part of a group, people can see you, but you're not a part of that group. So there's one called Brain Swell, I think it is, or brain, I can't think of brain something. And it's like 400,000 people in there. I'm not connected to all those people, but I post in that group because I'm part of that group. So making sure that your group's in LinkedIn. And the reason why I keep stressing on LinkedIn versus Instagram, and Chad was saying, hey, I follow you on Instagram. Instagram is not my favorite, neither is Facebook. It's only because it tends to be less business-like than LinkedIn. So we know LinkedIn is basically where people are looking for jobs or business, whereas Instagram is more like influencers and Facebook is definitely more like friends and family. So LinkedIn is my preferred choice. And people can get business from wherever, but I tend to think that the groups on LinkedIn are a lot more fruitful than the groups on Facebook. Just from the standpoint that Facebook really has this whole algorithm. Like if you don't pay to be seen, they squash your algorithm so that you don't really go out any further. So anyway, so repurposing that for additional coverage, if they can give you the MP4, if it's a podcast, definitely you can ask for the MP4. If not, create a playlist on YouTube. If you go to my youtube.com/ Pam Perry TV, you'll see the playlist that I have of interviews that I've done with other people are there. And it just says Pam Perry interviews. It's not that I have those interviews on my downloaded MP4 and uploaded them up to my channel, but I have them in a playlist. So over the years, you'll see all the interviews. If they can't give you the MP4, at least create a playlist. If you are with the TV station, they can sometimes give you the MP4 and you could tell them that I'd like to put on your YouTube channel. They will, if you're upfront with them, they will. They will, but don't just download it without their permission because that's not right. So you want to make sure. And then also to use those logos. If you've been seen in A, B, and C, ask them for the logo to put them on your one sheet, to put them on your website, to put them on your postcards or your business cards and things like that. Those little credibility boosters are really, really important. So many times people forget. If you were in Authority Magazine, you can ask Authority Magazine for their logo. A matter of fact, when I was in Authority Magazine, they gave me the logo and they said, hey, share this out. You want to make sure that you're doing that. And then the other thing that media appearances are important to put them on your website. So if you go to pamperrypr.com/media, you'll see all of my media interviews, print and broadcast on that page. So that way, when people go to the media page, it's like my media kit. You go to the media page, you'll see all of the interviews. So you want to make sure that you are maximizing it that way as well, because those are backlinks to your website, which makes your website have more Google juice. All right, so you become Google-licious. So maximizing those appearances are important. The logos are important. And then also too, the first step is just building the relationship with the journalist, the producer, the editor. and making sure that you're keeping that content part of your content strategy. So all of your media appearances are there forever. So create it so that once a month you're recycling those. So I have I think it's every Friday or sometimes Thursday. I'll do flashback Friday of an interview or throwback Thursday of an interview. Or some days it'll just be hashtag rewind and I'll pull out an interview from me years ago. And some of them are so bad, but it's like, hey, it's not where you start, it's where you end up, right? So some of the first ones were not that good, but I'll just put rewind so that people can see that you weren't always like as polished as you are now, but look where you started. So it's always good to show your history of the things that you are. I think Frank had asked for some tools and resources as well. So one of the tools that I use to track media coverage is Cision. Cision is, but it's really what publicists use. Cision not S, CISION.com. And when you have the Cision tool, it basically is like your tool tracking. So when we were years ago, I think, what was it called before it was Cision? I want to say it was Bacon's, then it merged. But it's like the industry standard of really tracking what the engagement is for your PR. How many impressions does it have? And we had to always report that back to clients. What was this and that? But Cision now does everything online. If you want media training or media coaching, I have a community called Ready, Set, Go, Speak. People are in there, Rodney's in there. And basically it's like a lot of the resources that I offer, whether it's templates, it's different media coaching, interviews with journalists, those are in Ready, Set, Go, Speak. And then the platform for distributing press releases, I use several. I use EIN, that's on my website. I use PR Log. For niche, for my multicultural clients, I use blackpr.com, blackprnews.com. So there's different ones for distributing press releases. Some people use pr.com, free. There's hundreds of PR press releases. It used to only be one, and that was PR Newswire. PR Newswire is owned by Cision. So part of using those are that it's kind of like the tools of the trade. So a lot of time. Any questions on that before I move on? Yeah. Okay.
I have one about LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the top LinkedIn groups we should be part of? And how should people determine what groups you want to join? Because you can get inundated with joining too many groups.
Yeah, I mean, you can. One of the things that I did last night was that I just put in LinkedIn across the top and I got to put in speaker groups. And it pulled up all kind of speaker groups. I mean, it was speaker groups from India, it was speaker groups all over. I mean, there were speaker matches, speaker this and that. I mean, Speakers Magazine, I have a group. So basically, depending on the keyword or the niche that you want to be a part of, you could go leadership and look at all the leadership groups. There's a ton of them, but it'll show you, it'll rank the groups of the most people in the group, how active they are, when was the last time they were active. So if it goes from A to Z, A is a lot of people, 400, 500,000 in it, and they're very active, down to like 50 people and they're not active. So obviously I will not join those. So it'll rank it based on leadership, speaker, and it'll just list all the groups based on the keyword of it. Writers groups, author groups. I'm in a lot of PR groups personally. I'm in social media groups. So depending on what your bend is, those are the ones you could search because they're there. I mean, I love LinkedIn because of searchability of it. You can also find different groups based on areas as well, like what are the ones in there. Another good group to join especially if I were doing a book, is just go to meetup.com. I love meetup.com because you can get real people in real life based on whatever the niche it is. So meetup.com, you can put in leadership groups in DMV and it'll show up, and basically you can go to those groups and those are the people that you can quote unquote test out your material for them. You could test out like, hey, how do you like this cover? How do you like this title? I'm working on this book. It's going to be out in September. I always tell people, I said, it's almost like schizophrenic in a way when you're writing a book and also promoting the book. The first thing I always tell people when you are writing a book is to write the marketing plan first, because the marketing plan will then give you a guide of how to market it. And then in a way, you'll understand the timing of it. So many times the author will write a book and write in a cave. And then they'll say, hey, the book is here, versus like trying to build up momentum or building up a tribe that will support the book by the time it's out. People love to be a part of your process. A person that did that I really loved it, her name is Lovey, LUVVIE.com. And she talked about her journey to Wall Street Journal bestseller, New York Times bestseller, USA Today bestseller, because she involved her community in her journey from day one. She would say, just give me an example, say, hey, I just finished chapter 16. This is what it was about. She's celebrating at Starbucks or whatever. It gave all behind the scenes of her writing the book along the way, tweeting it, putting it out on Facebook. People were like, hey, atta girl, there you go, whatever. By the time it came out, she says, hey, my book is about to launch. I've been working on it, because she's been sharing her journey. And by the time it launched, people would say, hey, what can we do to help? Because she says, here's the date, it's going to come out in September. Hi, yeah, you got a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh,
go ahead, Elena.
I missed who that was, because I'm starting to write a book, so I was curious. What was that again?
Lovey, LUVVIE.com. Lovey. I know it's a weird name, but that's her nickname.
LUVUI. Wait, say again.
Lovey, LUVVIE.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Lovey. Yeah.
Here's a follow-up question to Elena's other question, Anne's question. A follow to join TEDx groups in LinkedIn, do you need to have already given a TEDx talk?
No.
Might be a good place to put out there that you're interested and get some tips, information, and build relationships.
Yep, that is it. Yeah, there's a TEDx Michigan, there's TEDx General, TEDx Ideas. I mean, it will say, this is not an official TEDx group, but these are people who are interested in doing TEDx talks or people who have given TEDx talks.
And Elena, I would also suggest, we have a past president, Mike Schmidtman, who actually does a TEDx periodically in Warrenton, Virginia.
Warrenton,
Warrenton, Virginia. Mike Schmidtman, SCHMIDTMANN, I believe is his name. I could be off with a few letters in there.
So can you email me?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Because a lot of times doing a TEDx talk, Nathaniel, I interviewed him yesterday on Get Out There, Get Known podcast, and he did a TEDx in Wilmington, Delaware, I believe, and his was on parenting, and his books are all about parenting. And he did a TEDx talk, and he said, I haven't really leveraged it as much as I could. I'm planning on doing that. And so one of the things that I said for a lot of you all is that, who are your influencers? So he didn't know about Melvin, Craig Melvin from Today Show, that he was on tour, and basically it was the same thing. His first book was like how to become a son and a father, because he had a strange relationship with his father, and he didn't want that to continue to his son. And then the other book is like, I'm So Proud of You, which is a book for parents. So he didn't know that. And I said, you've got to find out, you have to, if you really want to know where you want to go, and find out who your influencers are in the field. They may even become mentors as well. I told someone to do that, and basically the person who was the influencer in the field, they start following them, and that person became their mentor. So it's just, it just becomes a shortcut for you in so many ways. So this right here is what I call my Ready, Set, Go, Speak system. And it's really kind of like what we went through today, but I'll give you the cliff notes of it. The ready is really the strategy stage. And a lot of times people will hire a publicist, someone like me, and then feel, I can't explain it, but it's almost like a self-sabotage comes over them. They're not feeling like they're worthy for PR. I'll give you a good example of someone who hired me to be their publicist. We got their marketing materials together. We got their pitch. We got their photos. The whole, I told them to, they need to straighten out some things on their website and this and that. And we're ready to go, and pitched her. And she got a opportunity to be on WDIV, Channel 4. And literally, she froze. She froze. She said she couldn't do it. She was sick. I can't talk. I was like, okay, well, let me know when you're ready. That was 2 months ago. She's still not sick. She was scared.
You should have her join NSA DC and our Speaker Academy, and we'll help her develop that confidence to be a public.
I think it wasn't about speaking. I think it was about the media being seen.
Ooh.
She could speak and she loves speaking, but when it's all of a sudden you're going to be on television, it's shut down. Like, oh my God, it's really happening. Yeah. And so I've called that get rid of any imposter syndrome that you feel so that you could walk in your calling. I really, it's so funny because when you hire a publicist, they pull you back and they're going to shoot you out like a rubber band, like, okay, there you go. And a lot of them are like, no, wait. And it's like, what are we waiting for? Wait. And I can't understand what that is, because if you hire publicists, they're going to get you out there, meeting people, doing things, being in the spotlight. It's like, so that ready phase is not just like get ready, like getting your messaging together, but getting your mindset together, because it is a whole nother thing. I think people feel like they'll be judged, or, people will think that they're all that. I don't know what it is, but part of it is that you've got to get that mindset right. You've got to decide, design, and define your brand and really feel confident about building your platform. I always talk about there's publicity, there's publishing, there's positioning, partnering, platform building, and obviously promotion. These are all the P's that, I got a lot of P's in my name. So I always tell people that you want to make sure that this ready phase, you spend the most time with that, because that is the foundation for everything, really defining that brand, that niche, producing the marketing materials, because that comes out of defining what the niche is, and then the PR plan, because it is a plan. And part of that plan is looking at doing the research on your influencers. Those are in the industry. The set tool is the easy part. That's what really most of the publicists will pull together for you. Your press kit, getting your media together, creating sizzle reels or speaker reels. We do a thing every year called Speak, Sell, Shine in DC. And Speak, Sell, Shine, we actually put together the media training. We have you interviewed. We do your sizzle reel for you, and we pull all together. The website, I will say this about websites: don't spend way too much time on the website. The website is just to convert so that you get an email name, and you can then continue to talk to someone on the email list. When someone comes to your website, they're not going to read all 100 pages anyway, all right? They're not going to read 5 pages. They're going to read 1 page. So make sure that that 1 page that they read, that you get their email address so you could continue to communicate with them. So that's one of the main things. And then obviously, if you have a book, making sure that the book is named right, it's positioned right, that it's in the right categories in Amazon, that you have a launch plan in place. I mean, those are all all those things. And then really getting media hooks and angles for every single month. So say January through February, it's like you should pitch a press release at least once a month. So January, what's going on in January, how can you put something in timely in for January? So if it has like fresh mindset, I don't know, February, Black History Month or love. I mean, got one of those things, or Super Bowl, depending on what it is that you do. Then March, what is it? March Madness? Is it Women's History Month? So find a hook for every single month that you can then create. June, if you're African American, Juneteenth or something around there. You've got graduation. So find a hook for what's going on in there. So those are hooks and angles for every single month. So write out, you got 12 months. What can you pitch at least once a month for 12 months? Obviously towards the end of the year, people are thinking about holiday, but they're also You know, what I told my other client, I said, there also is too about grief. So this is a good time for you to really talk about holiday blues. You know, obviously Thanksgiving, being thankful. So it's going to take a while, but you can, in even diseases, you know, it's National Lupus Month, or, you know, obviously people know October is pink, you know, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, if you're a survivor, those kind of things. Those are all hooks and angles that every single month, the producer said, we need that one story about this. We need this one story about this, suicide prevention, mental health, there's every month has a disease, like there, you know, heart awareness and those kind of things. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Then once you have the ready stage, you've got the strategy, you've got the tools, and then the pitching. And that's where the media relations come in. You're doing the outreach to the media, TV, print, podcast, even influencers are a way where you can actually put together some information where you're pitching influencers. If you have a book and you see an influencer that's their niche, send them the book and they can talk about the book in their Instagram live or their Facebook live or their LinkedIn live. They're influencers. They may not interview you, but they have influence because they have a big following and this is their niche. You know, a lot of times people do that with clothes, but you can also do that with books as well. They may have a book club. That's the other thing. You know, you can pitch book clubs. It's like, hey, I know my church has a book club. This woman has a book club. You know, Mahogany Books has a book club. Pitch them now. The thing about it is when you're pitching, give them enough time to respond because they're busy. So on the average, just so that you know, on the average, if I want to get someone in a media outlet, it will take at least 7 points of contact. So for each one is 7 times. Maybe emailing them, then sending another email, then maybe leaving a voicemail, then maybe sending them a DM, maybe following them on LinkedIn, maybe emailing them again, then trying to call them. It's going to be 7 times before it rises to the top. It's like, oh, were you trying to reach me? No. 7 times I was. Yes, I was trying to reach you. So just giving yourself time. Book clubs especially. Book clubs are probably working at least 3 months out. Magazines, typically shelf life of essence is about 3 to 4 months out. You know, so you want to give yourself time. That's why the ready phase is important, because the strategy of the plan, if you want to be in certain things, you know, to work backwards. If it's 3 months, then you're right now we're working on like probably almost August type of magazines now. So, you know, those are the kind of things they're talking about in terms of that set phase. Writing the pitch letters. You can write the pitch letters ahead of time. You don't have to wait until you're about to pitch. You can just write them and just have them in the template. In the program, I have a whole lot of like templates where you could just cut and paste and just do that. And so one of the things too is when you do, I always tell this too to people, is that when you look in Speakers Magazine, there are other speakers in here, you know, but if you look and their influencers say they are safe as Darlene Taylor, right? Look at her website, look at an influencer, where she is, what media she's been in. She's empowering lives. She's a therapist, author, coach, refining personal growth and co-parenting. That's one of her main things. So if you're doing a book on co-parenting, that's one. This particular lady here, Shannon Savoy, she's talking about healing and leadership, right? So just look and see where they are, because it may give you some ideas of places where you can pitch that you never thought of, right? There's so many different places, and the more you have, the bigger footprint you're going to have in terms of when you do pitch a larger outlet, because you have a whole lot of small media outlets that will then the media outlet that you're trying to pitch, if it's GMA or Today Show, they'll say, oh, they've had a lot of practice. They've been on about 100 podcasts. I know they won't flood it, that kind of thing. And then, so that's the pitching phase. It's probably the most active phase. That is the most, how do I say it? That's the one that probably wears people out the most, because it is relentless. Not that you're pestering, but it is relentless. Finding out that people have learned to ignore messages because we just get too many. So finding creative ways to write a subject line, a creative way to make a short pitch letter, creative way to even approach them. You know, sometimes it's just the approach, it's the timing. So pitching, I want to be in this particular outlet, this TV show, this radio show. I always tell too, one of the secrets of getting on a radio show is to do a call-in, to be a regular call-in. If you want to be, say, on Karen Hunter's show, right? And you can't be on Karen Hunter's show, like generally, like her guests are somewhat celebrity, but you can call into the show. She always takes callers. And when you get the caller, you get to call in, you get to leave a message. And you know what happens is that, what is your name? My name is Pam. And what is your name? And the producer will say, my name is Deborah. Okay, Deborah, thank you. So now you got Deborah's, the producer, name. And so call in every day and say, hey, Pam, how you doing? Good. I got another question for Karen. And I'm telling you, it works. Same thing with letters to the editor. They do not get a lot of letters to the editor. Letters to the editor of a magazine. I remember Teresa Harrison from Gospel Today. A lot of my clients were Christian authors and they wanted to get in Gospel Today. I said, what I want you to do is write a single letter every single month to Teresa, how great the issue was that you read last month. And I promise you, Kim Brooks did that like 3 months in a row. And then finally she realized that Teresa was really reading her letters and published one of them in the front of the magazine. You know how in the letters to the editor are always in the front, and published her comment. A few months later, Kim then gave her a pitch and said, hey, I'd like to write a column about Christian singles. And she became her Christian singles columnist for Gospel Today and did that for several years. But she did it. She got her attention by writing letters to the editor. So call in the radio shows that you listen to, write letters to the editors, to the magazines you read. That can't really be more like more common sense than that. But that's like, if you make your list of the 10 media that you want to really get in or be a part of, you have to study them and then actually interact with them. And then the last part, ready, set, go, speak. That's the bookings. That's really showing up and making sure that your signature speech is right, making sure that you're delivering the sound bites and you have your talking points down pat, that you are, and this is the most important, of when you are speaking, that you get testimonials of people saying, oh, that was great. You want people to leave you reviews. Those are part of that speaking part. So, ready, getting the strategy together, the set, go, and the speaking. When you do get the bookings, please make sure that even if it's just on your phone, ask someone, hey, did you enjoy my presentation day? And you actually put it on the phone or whatever. So you have those things. You can ask people to leave a review for you on Amazon and on LinkedIn. Those reviews for people like us are very important, because LinkedIn, you can't put a review up unless it's verified. Same thing with Amazon, it has to be verified. You can put a review up on your website, but it's your website. So people will just like, I don't know if there's a real person or whatever. But if it's on LinkedIn, that person is real. If it's on Amazon, it's real, because it has to be verified. Same thing like if you put something up on Yelp, it's verified. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. So I would, if you can, leave a review for me on LinkedIn. Those are some of the things of the places. I'm Pam Perry, PR on LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. So the Ready, Set, Go, Speak.com is a community primarily of speakers, authors, and really taking them through the process. The Branding Accelerator program is in there. I've got videos in there. We do a training every Friday, hot seats. So it's a really it's a reiteration of all the things I've done over the years, but now it's just all in one place, because it's just like that community. So at this point,
and we have another question for you.
Good.
Is the next Speak, Sell, Shine happening? Members want to know.
Oh, good. It is happening at the Howard Theater, and it is October 8th and 9th. So you can go to speaksellshine.com and sign up on the wait list. We are in the process of we just secured the place. So it is going to be in the DMV area, and it is going to be at the Howard Theater. Yeah, it's really, I love that place. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. So yeah, so October 8th and 9th, I think that's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday is from 9 to 3 each day. And then the evening, we have a mastermind in the evening for dinner. Cool. So the last slide is if you want PR, I had created a own URL for you guys. It's a bit.ly, Pam Perry PR NSA. And you sign up there and we could talk some more if you have more questions and things like that. But primarily it's like the next step if you want PR. Like I said, the Ready, Set, Go, Speak, that's like a program that's kind of like do it yourself. And then there's kind of like a hybrid in between, which is a quick media coverage, which is kind of like done with you type of a thing. And then there's PR VIP services as well. So just depending on what your needs are and at this point, and we can kind of point you in the right direction.
Well, Pam, thank you. We have a question from Robert Murphy.
Okay.
Excuse me, Joe Morgan first, then Robert.
Joe, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Joe, you're on.
All right, thank you. Good morning. So I don't know if this is the right platform for this, but it is a question that has been heavy on my mind. Appearance, because you're in the media so much, I just wanted to get your view on that. Appearances. So in my natural, I don't have like the perfect smile. And so when I see other speakers and I see media personalities with these gorgeous smiles, it makes me feel a little self-conscious. So how important is that in the media or trying to promote yourself?
Yeah, you know what? I had this conversation with someone about a month ago, and I would say it wasn't a big deal years ago as much as social media now because we're doing lives and everybody's on. It's just so different now. And I want to say my baby boomer clients are more self-conscious about this than say my Gen Xers or the millennials. Millennials, obviously their skin is a lot more tight and that sort of thing. Versus a baby boomer, it's like, oh, why couldn't social media been around when I was in my 20s and 30s, you know? It is important. Sometimes if you're self-conscious about it, then it's going to show. If you're not self-conscious about it, then it shouldn't matter. I will say for women and men, a stylist always helps. Just really talking with the stylist and Speak Sell Shine. We have you talk with the stylist. For men, they can get away with less style than women. Like they can kind of wear a suit and they can even wear the same color suit all the time. With women, it's a little bit different because we get judged harshly with the hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff. But I would say if you're not self-conscious about it, then work it through. If you are self-conscious about it, depending on what it is, you know, you may just want to, I remember Jesse asking me about this and he went and got some work done and he was saying, he says, I'm doing lives and the lives are so much like right here. He says, I feel like I need to do something with my teeth. And so he did. And I think it was like, what he had fixed, it was a lot less than what he thought it was going to be. I don't know what he thought it was going to be, like $10,000 or whatever. I said, but when you got it fixed, I said, it was relative and he felt so much better and it looked so much better. It was just like something that he wanted to do. You know, it just depends. So what is it, Joe, that you think is not quote unquote right? Is it like crooked teeth? Is it gaps? Is it, I mean,
Yes, it's gaps. And I was born with them. And so I struggle between how God made me and go with that. And then how the perception of, does that stop me from getting the opportunities? That's all. That's where I am. So
do you know TD Jakes?
I do.
Does he have a gap? Does he have a gap?
Yes, he does.
Okay,
yes,
then.
he does. Okay.
So it's how you roll with it, right? I mean, a gap is a gap, so you can't really do anything about a gap. I mean, you could, but it's like it's your USP that's unique to you.
Yes.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have Robert Murphy up next, followed by Ron Cooper.
Hey, Robert.
Good. Hey, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Really just two comments. Dr. Horton, you don't remember me, but we met years ago when you were still a Baltimore City council person. And I'll never forget, we were at the White House and you asked me a question about living in the city of Baltimore. And I explained to you, and I left Baltimore shortly after that question. So sorry. But I wanted to I wanted to recognize your grace and your commitment to the citizens of the city of Baltimore. So yeah, that's just a recognition to you. Dr. Pam, I need to know, you east side or west side?
East.
Okay, okay. I'm a West Sider, so I just I had to check that out. 7 Mile Southfield, that was my home. Dr. Pam, I will be reaching out to you a little bit later on. I appreciate everything that you've done. You've dropped some gems in here and some things that I had to think about with my own book. So thank you.
Good, good. I do want to say that since I see that up there, this is a book that was Black Speakers Network. This was a book anthology that we were in. This is on Amazon. I would suggest you guys get it. It's the ultimate guide to dominate the speaking industry. And I go over marketing, but then they go over management, which is a critical part, messaging. What else? He goes over all the M's in here. The foreword is by George Fraser, and the afterword is by Les Brown. But it really goes over about 30 of us are in here. I find that the mission and the message most of the speakers kind of know. The marketing is where they kind of need a lot of help. Monetization, that was really, really key. And then management. And that had to do with a lot of taxes and things like that. So it really goes over everything in here. So this is about a couple years old, but it's still really good and relevant. So I would suggest you guys get that. I don't have my own book, but this is a thick book. It took us a while to get this out. So I said, you know what, this is my one and done right here. That's my
Wonderful.
baby.
Thank you, Dr. Pam. We have Ron Cooper up next, and this will be our last question as we're winding down on our time together. Ron, take it away.
Pam, very interested in your very candid opinion about a combat fighter pilot leveraging experience from the combat zone into leadership, and it correlates, in my opinion, with intentional leadership, but it's correlating critical thinking and timely decisions from the cockpit as relates to the workplace. Very interested in your candid opinion if that is a marketable topic.
So have you done who are your influencers in that area?
What are my influences? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Well, critical thinking is a part of it.
No. You said you were a fighter pilot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. So who are the influencers of fighter pilots that are in that area?
Well, one of the better known figures is Robin Olds, and there's Jimmy Doolittle, those kind of folks.
There is her name is Carrie Lorenz. I see her as well. It's a Black woman. I can't think of her name, but when I tell you that here, you ever heard of Vernice Armour?
I have not.
Please look her up.
Okay.
Vernice Armour. Vernice Armour. She's the first African-American. She calls herself the Fly Girl. And Vernice is
she's an NSA member.
Yes, she is an NSA member.
As is Liz McCormick.
Okay. So when I tell
Nicole Malachowski.
Yes, Nicole Malachowski, who was a member of NSA DC.
Yes. So you wanna find, Ron, the area that you're similar but different, okay? Because there's a market for it. So Vernice Armour, obviously get that name right, but her profile says combat tests you, being a beat cop tests you, life tests you, 3 brothers and being the only girl tests you. Vernice Fly Girl Armour has been tested her whole life, a gutsy trailblazer. Her resume is an impressive collection of firsts, including African-American first female combat pilot. She served 2 tours of duty in Iraq as a Marine. She was also a diversity liaison officer to the Pentagon. And after her service, she revved up her career in the private sector as an entrepreneur consultant, author of Zero to Breakthrough and the 7-step battle-tested method for an accomplishing goals, blah, 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 this and that. But everything that she does has to do with that kind of thing, you know, the battle proof, the zero to, you know, zero ground zero, that those kind of things. And she speaks primarily to businesses. And one of the things that she does, if you pull this up, she always comes out in her combat gear. I don't know if you can see this or not. It is just like, she comes out like the elephant in the room, like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, I've got this fighter gear on. And she really does talk about leadership. She says she's learned under the most stressful circumstances about leadership, teamwork, resilience, communication, and building a culture of unshakable trust. So I'm sure those are probably some of the same type of things that you speak about, right, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah. So finding like what Anne and Dr. Helen talked about, the people who are in the field or NSA speakers, it's a great topic. Only you could speak about it, right? Because you're one of the ones. So what is unique that they're not delivering? Obviously, they're female, you're male. So just a little bit different about your perspective and things like that. But when you look at some of the media they've been on, where have they been? What have they done? How do they position and market themselves? Is really, really key of really just deciding how to put your own plan together. She's been on like CNN and Oprah and NPR and that kind of thing.